A bad idea has never been cheaper to execute. And I think that's one of the things we're missing in the conversation about AI. We keep talking about how much faster everything is getting. You can build a prototype in a weekend, create a campaign in an afternoon, and analyze a year's worth of data in just a few minutes. We can write code without really knowing how to even write it. And that's incredible. But it also changes something pretty fundamental, because the question is becoming less of, can we make this? And more, is this actually something worth making? And I think that shift is going to make judgment one of the most valuable skills in business. Think about what it used to take to execute an idea. If you wanted to build software, you needed developers. If you wanted to launch a campaign, you needed writers, designers, and media buyers. If you wanted to analyze a large data set, somebody had to clean the data, write the code, run the analysis, and figure out what it meant. Those things took time. They took money, and because they took time and money, you had to make real choices. Is this the right problem to solve? Is this where we should be spending our resources? The cost of execution created friction, and friction forced a certain amount of discipline. Now that friction is starting to disappear. I've seen this firsthand. There are things I used to spend hours doing in Python that I can now do in minutes. I can take a data set, explore different questions, and get to the useful part much faster. The same thing is happening with design, programming, research, writing, prototyping. You can take an idea surprisingly far before you spend much time and money on it. That's a massive advantage, but it creates a new problem. When the cost of trying something gets close to zero, the number of things you can try explodes. And suddenly, execution isn't the bottleneck anymore. Judgment is. This is where I think businesses can get themselves into trouble. When something is easy to execute, it's easy to justify. Let's test another campaign. Let's build another landing page. Let's add another feature. Let's create more content. None of these decisions sound dangerous. The cost is small, but multiply them across a business, and eventually you have 15 campaigns, 5 priorities, 4 customer segments, and a team working extremely hard without being entirely sure what matters most. You're producing more, but you're not necessarily progressing faster. And I think that's an important distinction. More output is not automatically more progress. When people hear the word strategy, they often picture some giant planning exercise. But strategy is really about choice. Who are we trying to serve? What problem are we trying to solve? Where are we going to invest? What do we want to be known for? And equally important, what are we going to do? Historically, limited resources helped force those decisions. You couldn't afford to pursue every idea. Now we're entering a world where technically you might be able to pursue almost all of them. That doesn't make strategy less important. It makes it more important, because the ability to do something doesn't tell you whether you should do it. If execution keeps getting cheaper, then the value starts moving upstream toward the quality of the decision. Understanding which problems are actually worth solving, knowing whether an idea fits the business you are trying to build, recognizing the difference between something customers really value and something that's simply interesting to create, knowing when to keep going and knowing when to stop. These aren't purely technical skills. They come from experience, context, understanding the customer, understanding the market, and sometimes making a call when the answer isn't obvious. This has also changed how I use AI. I don't just want it helping me execute an idea. I want it challenging the idea before I even execute it. What am I missing? What assumptions am I making? Why might this not work? What would someone who disagrees with me say? Because AI is extremely good at helping you build a plan. But getting a great plan for a bad idea isn't particularly useful. The real value is in using these tools to improve the quality of the thinking before the execution starts. We're going to be able to build more, create more, analyze more, automate more, and try more than we ever could before. But capability isn't direction. The businesses that get the most out of AI probably won't just be the ones using it the most. They'll be the ones making the best decisions about where to deploy it. Because a bad idea has never been cheaper to execute, and good judgment has never been more valuable.